Hello everybody, welcome to Shanth Enjeti Art, and the first stream I've done in a very long time. I've been working on a lot of different things and people have been telling me I need to get back to streaming, but to be honest, I've been really distracted by YouTube and doing my own work while I watch it, signing art books to send off to people. So I thought it'd be a good idea to get back after it and get some practice in to streaming, which I'm planning on doing more of. And so I want to show you what I'm working on. Right now I'm working on a project for another book, and that book is going to be called Bleak Fury. And it's a kind of comic manga concept that I've been thinking about for the last couple of weeks, and my plan with it has been to illustrate the thing without doing any pencils. I just wrapped up my most recent art book, and I'm in the middle of the shipping process right now. So for those of you who have not ever seen it, as everything goes tumbling down, all my layout pages go tumbling down, this is the art book I just printed up. So I've been working on head sketches for the people who backed it, all while drawing on this thing. So here you go. This is what I've been up to. But now I'm working on this manga comic book idea, so we'll see where this goes. I haven't completely decided what it's going to be in terms of where it's going, other than it's going to be a book and it's going to be finished. So this is a cover idea that I'm working on while I figure out what the layout is. The actual pages of the book are being done right now anyway inside of a watercolor sketchbook. So it's actually in a hardcover book, so that when I am working on it, I am, for all intents and purposes, if I can get this cable out of the way here, I am, for all intents and purposes, working on a book that I can flip through. So this is a look at page 1, and then this right here is a look at page 2. And so I've got this book that I've been developing and trying to figure out what it's going to be. And I don't know, it's just kind of a stream of consciousness story that I'm writing right now. It's action, it's adventure, it's horror, it's a little bit of everything. So we'll see where it goes and go from there. So these are the pages that I've done thus far. And gosh, I'm up to page 7 right now, I think it is. And so these are the sequences. So what I wanted to do when I'm working on the cover today is I wanted to go in and put some detail into this sketch. And originally it was just an idea for a temporary cover, and then I realized that in order for me to do these books, I have to kind of have a little bit more of a sense of what the thing is going to be. So I needed to draw the cover. And so the cover has some really interesting, cool stuff. There's a foreshortened axe that's coming at this character, this gigantic axe by this huge creature that you're going to see reflected in it, which is a little bit of that influence of Todd McFarlane's Hulk 340 comic book cover, which is pretty much why I got into art. So I'm going to see what things I need to do on this page. So let's take a quick look in here. And I think I'm going to ink on this hand a little bit more because I wanted to make it darker. I haven't worked in black and white in ages. And when you guys have been so amazing and supportive of these art books, I was just, sort of shocked by it. I kind of just started working in color. And then everybody was really interested in that work, and I love working in color, and I thought, wow, I really love working in color. And I haven't thought about working in black and white in ages. And so what ended up happening was I finished art book 2, and I was thinking, all right, so I'm going to come up with my idea for the second art book when I'm done with this. And this darn sequential art story just fought its way to the front of my brain. And so now I'm working in black and white, and I think it's because I was reading a manga called Berserk that I'm just blown away by, and then I was seeing a lot of the interesting stuff that's going on in crowdfunded comics right now, and it just got me thinking about how there are certain ideas I have for stories, and I probably think about them a lot, and I dissect them a lot, and then sometimes I'm like, well, this story, maybe it needs to be written, but I don't know if it needs to be illustrated and drawn, whereas this was kind of the opposite. The story sort of presented itself like my artwork did on the art books. I just started drawing it, and I wasn't concerned about making, errors and overthinking the work, which is something I tend to do when I'm doing sequential artwork. It was the exact opposite of how it's usually been for me. The story has just seemed to be writing itself, and the visuals are just sort of coming to me fast, and I just lay them out in Photoshop on a trackpad, just sketching out the layouts. So this is an example of what my layout pages typically look like, just done on a trackpad in Photoshop. And then this is an example of what one of the giant sort of demon creatures is going to look like. And so that's what's swinging the axe at him. You can see how small the character is in comparison. But I think it's probably because my visual vocabulary, such that it is sort of been founded on and centered in comic books, which I really love, and the comic book art form. And as I've gotten into some of the older, and certainly not old in terms of, its popularity, I think some of these things are still in their prime, even though they were created in the 80s. But as I started to get into manga more and see some of the stuff that really speaks to me, which took a little while probably for it to get in front of my radar, I realized that there was just so much more potential for storytelling. And at least, I don't want to say potential for storytelling in terms of in manga. I think it's always been obvious that exists, but I realized that I had more stories I wanted to tell that were outside of what we would typically think of it as being in a comic book. And so here we are. Really did not see this coming. Here we go. Hope everybody's having a great day today and hanging in there. And I think that's probably one of the things that is responsible for why I'm here and why I'm streaming, is that every now and again I'll be, sifting through YouTube because, let's face it, in the times when I'm sitting around at home and I start to get cabin fever, I look for something interesting to watch and, see people. I started feeling like, I should probably start whatever my contribution to that could possibly be. I should probably give something to the effort of getting people's minds off of being, stuck in the house or whatever else is going on in the world, which is always a lot, it seems. But I think it's also a nice thing to talk about art and see art and talk comics and all that great stuff that inspires us. And I've certainly been inspired by a lot of the stuff I see on YouTube and a lot of the artists that I've met on YouTube, so I felt like I should just get off my butt and do a stream. And of course it doesn't hurt that one of my YouTube brothers, Michael King of The Choice Voice, and someone who I'm a patron of his Patreon, we were talking, I think, on Facebook, and he was like, you need to get back to streaming, and he's right. I'd been working on a movie poster for his Star Trek fan film that he is directing, called, or the series he's developed, worked on, written, created, and oftentimes stars in, called Starship Valiant. And we started talking, and I asked him if he would be game for me to do a poster. So that was one of the things I've been working on during this little break from YouTube, was doing a poster for Starship Valiant and doing a likeness of, the actors and creatures that are inside of that story. And I know that's going to be coming out soon. But if you haven't seen the trailer for Starship Valiant, head on over to the Starship Valiant channel, and also check out Michael on the Choice Voice. He's been doing some great work lately. I mean, he's always doing great work, but the reviews he does for me of Hammer Horror, for me as a patron of Hammer Horror Films, is pretty awesome. So, there you go. Boy, it takes a while to get back into this. I haven't streamed in ages. Just been busy taking care of family life stuff and getting my art books signed and printed and color corrected and that kind of thing. So, may take me a while to get back into this whole thing. But it's not the hardest thing I've done today. Today I started taking violin lessons, so I'm going to learn how to play the violin, and that's going to be a little bit harder, I think, than just getting used to YouTubing again and inking. There we go. Also, my Mac broke, which is a big problem, so I had to get a new computer. And you know, every time I buy an Apple product, there's like 3 less ports. I have to get all the stuff set up so that I can get it to work. Get all of my microphones and other elements to my work able to plug in and get the computer to recognize them and all that stuff. Yeah, if you're ever having if your computer's ever telling you you're having issues with your battery, do not put that off. It will cause lots of problems. Let me see. That's right. Yeah, why am I awake at midnight? So I've been averaging, in my time zone anyway, my average time I go to bed has been about 4 to 5 o'clock in the morning. So I'm an absolute night owl. I don't mean that I stay up late and sleep all day. I mean, I stay up late and then wake up reasonably early and get to work. So I blame this comic. That's the problem. I blame this comic. That's why it's happening. I have no idea where this came from. No idea. It just happened, which is, you know, one of those things. Started having these thoughts for a story, and I wanted to sketch them out, and I basically said to myself that I wasn't allowed to sketch them out, that I had to just draw the story as I thought of it. And so every 2 pages, or every time I finish 2 pages, I lay out 2 more, finish them, lay out 2 more. And I mean, it's not like it's my first rodeo when it comes to sequential art, but it is the first time I've done it this way. And I've just been influenced by a lot of the stuff I'm seeing from Amano, and who else am I thinking of? The stuff I've seen from Amano, the stuff I've seen from Kim Jung-ji, and of course Berserk by God, I can't pronounce anybody's name. I'm not gonna butcher any more names today. As someone named Shanth Enjeti, I don't want to be I don't want to contribute to poor mispronunciations. I've had that my whole life, so don't want to share that joy. But it's just there's some brilliant work out there, and the artists are so fast and so interesting. There you go. Oh yeah, that's absolutely right. Yeah, the elves finish the artwork at night, right? And then we're like, oh wait, that was me. Yeah, I've run into that too. There we go. It's starting to come together. Let's get in on that right there and see what it looks like. Whenever I move my camera, and I realize I have to look around it. Reposition it in a sec. Just tilt it over just a bit. There we go. Now you can see it a little bit easier. But yeah, I basically just start drawing in pen, and then I'll ink into it and sort of see where it goes and see how the stuff, you know, looks, and you know, it's interesting because it's I don't want to say there's no room for error, because there's always going to be error in the stuff. You know, it's not like I'm tracing something that already exists. Although I don't even think I'd be good at that. But it's I'm just approaching this from the standpoint of it has to get done, and a lot of what I've learned as in terms of my painted illustration work. For the last 2 art books that I've done. So not surprisingly, because I've watched it happen with so many other artists, I just didn't really see it coming, has translated into my ink work. And all of a sudden I was just basically drawing like I paint, which is really strange to me. But then all of it is a little bit strange. starting to come together. Let me see here. There we go. That's looking all right. Let's see how I can figure this guy out here. All right. So I've got the baggy pants happening here. And now we're going to zoom out a little bit more and take a look at what we have happening here. There we go. Hopefully it'll focus. There it is. And then we'll start to see where we go, you know, with the various details that I need to do in here. Now this is going to be a tricky part because I have to work down low here on this one. So let's see how this goes. All right. Actually, I'm going to tilt it so that might make it a little bit easier. And hopefully I won't go off frame here. Just have a little bit of a value crescendo right there. Make that thing have a little bit of dark in there. It's okay if it stays mostly gray because that's part of the aesthetic I'm going for here. But I want to make sure I have a little bit of a dark note so it ties into everything else. So this is kind of a big axe. This whole thing is going to be a giant axe in perspective coming at the main character. And that's the reflection of the creature that's holding it. So that's pretty much my plan for this project as I work on it. So that's working out great, hopefully. And then I'm going to bring that into Photoshop and see if I can't get it laid out and everything like that. And get it to be stronger. Actually, I think I'm going to hatch it in white for a little bit. At least on that hand. Go. Yeah, I like the aesthetic of inking in white over black. I don't know why. It's got this really, if you ink in black over white and then white over black at the same time, it just gives it a little bit more volume from my experience, or at least it does in my work. And in that sense, it's probably a little bit more like painting. I haven't drawn comics this way since I was a kid, so that's kind of the fun thing about it. Is kind of going back to my roots because I used to work in black and white. I mean, that's been a huge part of what I do. Oh boy. Go. Just have to sort of like lean back in my chair and get a better perspective on it. Probably because my up close vision isn't doing as well as it used to do. I need to get some glasses going on here. There we go. Okay, and I think now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to carry those lines right here through so that it gives it a little bit more motion. Whenever I think I've hatched too much on my work, detail-wise, I always go back and look at it afterwards, and I just don't feel like there's enough detail. It's very hard for me to just see the detail in my stuff. It always feels like it's not detailed enough. Oh yeah, it does. Absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, the thing for me is it's like, you know, when I look at the value, when I look at how it's coming together, I kind of have to remind myself that I don't have to annihilate everything with with ink. But, you know, I don't know. It's tough to say because when I look at people's work and it's got a rich amount of detail in it, I you know, it's done well anyway. I really appreciate it. And, you know, I certainly think that, you know, the way that Zipatone and screen tone in manga is used to get this really rich textural quality is amazing to me. You know, it's amazing how it looks, and so I'm always trying to, you know, create that sensibility. And oh, that's nice. I just moved my I just moved my cursor so I can actually see the screen and see what you guys are seeing. That makes life a little bit easier. There we go. Well, let's see if I can get that value in there. And so what we have there for this hand starts to kind of take on a little bit more of a more dramatic and subtly hatched aesthetic right there. And that's really what I'm after when I'm working. I'm trying to figure out how do I get that capacity into the work where, you know, you look at it and you feel like you get a real strong sense of what this world is and what all this stuff's about. I'm going to check my reference here real quick. So I photoshopped a sketch of this, and the sketch is so, yeah, I think that's how everybody feels when they're working on their stuff, you know, is how much detail is too much detail, how much detail is not enough, you know. And for me, when I'm working, the key, if I can find it right here, is when I'm working, what I try to do is work into it traditionally, scan it in, and then just take a look at it. And so what I do is I plug it into the rough cover layout. So I'm one of those people where I try to build the book as I draw it. So I have to have an idea for a book. Good night, Ace. Sorry, my son just came downstairs. I want to say hi to him real quick. But one of the things that's really important to me when I'm working is really thinking about the book and picturing it in my head. So when I was working on my art book that I'm going to be shipping out soon, this book right here, I'm thinking about the paper stock. I'm thinking about, you know, the color reproduction. I'm thinking about how the interior pages are going to look. And, you know, this piece is very much about, you know, color. This book, I think of it as a single piece. And that's kind of, you know, how I view these things. And so I want to use the same kind of paper stock, the same glossy cover to make a very, like, heavyweight comic book. You know, very heavyweight manga. And, well, it's kind of like a thin manga and a heavyweight comic book. I don't know if that makes any sense. But I'm interested in doing something new. I mean, I'm interested in... I mean, I don't want to say it's like I'm, you know, inventing the wheel here by any stretch, but I want to do something where I have this idea of what my sequential art can be that kind of ties into all of the things I've been doing with the art books, and it's different than anything I've ever done before. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. That's starting to work. All right, I think it's time to reach the limits of what what pens can give me, and so it's time to break out a little bit of the ink there. There we go. Let's see how this works. I don't even know what the ink viscosity is going to be on this, but we'll give it a shot and see what we come up with. There we go. The thing about this watercolor paper is it'll drink the water up really quickly, so you got to make sure you've got enough in your brush. And I'll run into that sometimes where I don't put enough ink in my brush. So we'll see how it goes. There we go. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Much appreciated. Thank you, Sylvia. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Let's see. There we go. Starting to come along. starting to develop that figure just a little bit more. There we are. Starting to come together. All right, let's see here. What else do I have to do? Okay. Let's rotate this thing and see what we're looking at here. Okay, so there's the cover on its side. Take a look at it upside down. See what we have there. Okay, and then we're going to take a look at it right side up. There we go. Okay, cool. So that's starting to come along. So now let's see what else I want to do on this thing here. I'm going to work into the hand a little bit here. And use the brush again, because I think when I use the pen, sometimes I just get locked into that zone of making tiny little lines. And I want to try to put in some darker values into there that aren't just those tiny little lines. There we go. Let's see how that's starting to work. There we go. Get that a little bit darker right in there, just so we can start to develop the both the dimensional and textural quality of it. To be honest, it's both. I don't know, comics and manga are weird. I don't want to say that the normal drawing rules don't apply, and I mean, in such that the normal drawing rules are followed by anybody, really. Or they're followed by people, but they're not followed by most people, and I'm certainly not the one to advocate that or to espouse that I'm the person who follows them all exactly. But what I would say is that there are certain... I remember Todd McFarlane, one of my heroes when I was coming up, said that there are certain lines in comic books that you, as an artist, kind of need to figure out how to place. And I think what he meant by that is that there are certain lines that are a little bit more about emotion and a little bit more about movement that we need to do when we're drawing, or that the best or most attractive comic book work has, much like some of the most attractive fantasy work. And it's not about not knowing how to do things, which it would be great if it was. It's about knowing how to selectively kind of throw away certain things in order to make the stuff more compelling. And it's something that I've probably worked on and struggled with as an artist most of my life, because I think it's just the hardest thing in the world to do. I mean, I don't know... I can't argue that Frank Frazetta always has perfect anatomy, although it's not bad by any stretch, but his stuff is just incredible. He's got this really great sense of movement to his stuff. And a lot of the work that I have behind me, I actually just recently got... I don't know if you can see it, actually. It might be... Actually, maybe you can't. Let me move my brush to it. Oh, it's right there. So it's almost in frame right there. Yeah, it's a Batman black and white statue by Todd McFarlane. This crazy sculptor tried to sculpt a Todd McFarlane piece, and you just go, there's nothing... What is that even... How do you even do that? There's nothing naturalistic about it, but it looks aesthetically beautiful. It's a beautiful sculpture. And that artist clearly understood what Todd was trying to do with the movement of the piece. And so that's one of those things I always try to think about when I'm working, is how to get that movement into my work. There we go. But, you know, I think that getting to the point where I started to realize that I, learned enough to kind of be able to play with that stuff and chuck some of it out the window was something I didn't do till I was, the age I am now, and really be able to get away with it. I'm sure I tried it before, but I don't think I got away with it. Couldn't pull it off. There's this element, I think, early on when we're trying to be creative and expressive and find our own style, but we don't know all of the we don't have all of the knowledge that we need to have to really be able to play, where it's kind of like when you see a basketball player having the whole court to himself, and then he tries to dunk, and and the basketball just shoots out of the net. That's basically what it is. I mean, it looks cool for about 5 minutes, but it doesn't work. And got the whole court to yourself, and you're just going down the court, but you don't have the skill to actually score. And that's kind of what it's about for me when I'm looking at this stuff. It's like getting to this point where you're playing with your style a little bit more is like perfecting your entrance walk as a boxer and then getting knocked out when you get there. It's a tough, and that's the thing too. I mean, it's once you get the reference, once you draw from life enough to where that it's memorized and it's in your head, you can then draw from life in the sense of your life experience, which is something I always say, because I think it was the big big realization I had about why it was important to do. And I think that when I draw from life now, I think my sensibilities inform it, or I can choose to have my sensibilities inform it, and so it goes in both directions. But yeah, it's a tricky thing. It's a very it's why I think we as artists need every moment of our lives studying the physical aspect of making work, and not I think we get too upset. Like, I don't know, that's the best way I could put it, but two of my writing heroes, J.R.R. Tolkien and C.S. Lewis, just in terms of the scope that they got in their work, they both did their work when they were, and wrote those books when they were older already. They had a life experience. I think both of them had served in World War I, if I'm not mistaken. So these folks had a lot of experience to bring to the table, and I think there's this interesting thing that I really believed when I was younger, that I had all these brilliant ideas and I needed to make my work, and I found that I would always hit that I'd always hit that wall of not having enough skill to finish them. And now that I've got skill, I spent so much time going, I'm done with stories and coming up with too many concepts. I need to just learn how to draw and paint better and get proficient and work all the time. What I've found that I've run into is that I'm writing different stories. I'm writing stories that come out of the skill set I have, and they're much more physical. And I think the reason why stuff looks fake is because we can see it, but we don't know what we're seeing sometimes. And for me, when I would look at people who were doing stylistic work, I always imagined that they were picturing in their head stylistic work, and I didn't realize they were picturing in their head the things they were drawing in reality. And so they kind of were in many ways, they were really great at understanding how things looked. And you can just always tell the difference. I mean, some of the lines I make when I draw are absurd, but I'm still picturing light that I've seen on a hand, or textures that I've seen on a hand. It's really strange. I'm not sure if I'm I'm the best at answering that question sometimes, but I'm getting back to streaming. It's going to take me a little while to get in the groove here. It may take a couple of streams, and I'm going to try to force myself to do them, and my son's going to hold me accountable, because he wants me to stream more. But it's funny, my friends who have YouTube channels, and the YouTubers I follow have really helped me to understand what a discipline it is in terms of putting your work out there and promoting your work and getting better at this stuff. So that's a huge part of it. Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's I think that's why it's really nice to pick up new skills. I'm just thinking about my first violin lesson today, and there's nothing better than learning a new skill from the start, and you realize how much time it takes to get the muscle memory to where you can start to play with your stuff. And it's like, really allow yourself to throw crazy images out there, and then just trust that you're going to have the knowledge to complete them. It's the same thing with music. It's the same thing with playing. It's the same thing with building up the ability to do so. So I've got this really interesting hooded kind of wraith-like character up there, and put him in after the fact. I just sort of went, oh, there should be something in there, and this is what I came up with. And then the reaching hands and the axe starting to come together, starting to work. We'll have to figure out how we can move that forward, in terms of the story, but it's getting there. Let's see what else I need to do here. Okay, that's all right. That's coming along. My attitude, generally speaking, is particularly, when I'm working on various things, got a lot of different things going, is not to put myself into a position where I'm working on something. Oops, I'm drawn off frame there. Working on something when I'm too tired to think. And so this is one of those examples of when I'll start to feel myself getting a little bit more fatigued and go, all right, so I'm going to switch it up. What am I going to do? And so let me move. Actually, I'm going to keep this here because I think it's useful to have it where I can see it. So one of the things I do is when people back my books, before the what's the word I'm looking for? Before it closes out. Some people buy it on demand on IndieGoGo, but to the first 70 people who backed my book and are responsible for the campaign funding, I'm putting together some special little perk for them to have in addition to the perks they already have. And these are what they are. I'm going to be doing, I'm going to have to do 70 of them, but I'm doing 70 head sketches in ink on watercolor postcards as a little extra thank you to my first 70 backers. So this is the stuff that requires the speed, and there's no pencil drawing. It's just going straight through it. Yeah, it is. I always think, it's interesting. I always think that it's largely, for me anyway, it's largely a blessing, because I think that, what's the word I'm looking for? I just can't, I've been thinking more and more about it, and I just think I can't imagine, which I'm sure is probably the case for you as well, is I can't imagine not being an artist. Let's see if I can get that to focus. Jeez, that camera's struggling there. Or is it just, I'll see what depth of field it's used to. Oh dear. I'll have to move it. Uh-oh. We having trouble focusing? There we go. It's alright, I've had trouble focusing before myself. But I do think that it's one of those things to where as I get more comfortable, making work, and as I get more comfortable trying to figure out what this stuff is, I just sort of realize that if I didn't have the ability to draw, if I didn't have the ability to paint, if I didn't have the ability to kind of do these things and create things, there would just kind of, for me anyway, there'd be this void. And in a weird sense, I think it's kind of helped me to understand people who have interests and disciplines that are different. Whether it's playing an instrument, which I'm trying to learn how to do now, or sports or anything, is that it really is, you kind of move in the direction of the things that you're passionate about and that you want to do. And I think it's, for me anyway, I think it's been really amazing to be able to share this stuff and live in the time we're living in, where we can share our artwork and talk about our process and promote the stuff that we do. I mean, that's probably the most fun thing, in the world to me, is that I get to do that. And I can't believe that I've been able to produce 2 art books in the last, maybe 2 years, I think it is. And I would have never, I was actually really struggling with what I was going to do for book 3. And I know I'm going to do a 3rd actual art book, but I was struggling with what I was going to do for my next art book. And then here we were. It's just such a strange thing as we come up with these ideas. Let me see if I can get this a little bit better there. There we go. So this right here is, if I get it to focus, come on. Let's see if that helps it a little bit. No, it's being fussy. There we go. There we are. So this right here, let's see if it can stay focused. It's a little bit focused. But this right here is the piece that I've been working on tonight, and I'm going to be doing a lot more streams. I'm looking to get myself back in the habit of doing this. This is kind of just a dry run, so it's not going to be particularly long tonight. But thanks so much for checking out the stream. Have a great evening, and best of luck with your own artwork. And take care, everybody. I will see you guys soon again in another stream. Take care.